We want to talk about how can technology enrich art? How can art enrich technology? Are they two different things? Are they maybe kind of the same thing? Are there intersections? And I'm very thrilled to have with me for the first panel 3 experts on the topic. They're all involved with the exhibit downstairs, so if afterwards you go downstairs to see the MINDKISS exhibition, hopefully you'll have some background on that. And I'm delighted to welcome Dagmar Woyde-Koehler here to my left, Juliana Vrady in the middle here. She's also one of the curators and organizers of this festival, so good job so far. Almost done, another day and a half. And Christoph Brosius, who is a game designer and artist as well, and they will all introduce themselves a little bit more in a second. Thank you for being here with us. We're doing this in English because, as you heard from my announcement, this is a very international event. We have artists from Russia, from Italy, from Germany, and other places, and so English turns out to be the lingua franca for this festival. The next one, by the way, will be in Moscow, as I learned yesterday, and hopefully next year around this time, without Corona, back here in Leipzig. So, my next card of notes here. So, like I said, I would like all of you to introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little bit about what your relationship is to the exhibit, the MINDKISS exhibit downstairs, briefly. So who are you? Why are you here? And what is your relationship to the exhibit downstairs? Dagmar, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Dagmar Woyde-Koehler. You asked me why am I here. I'm really happy to say that I was invited by Kunstkraftwerk Leipzig to be here, and of course I followed the invitation, and my role here and my relationship to the exhibition downstairs, OUBEYs MINDKISS, is that I'm the founder and the conductor, if you want so, of this project, and I'm working with a lot of people across the world to bring the artwork, the analog artwork of the late German artist Ube to the people all over the world. And that's why we are here, and we have a combination, or we're building a bridge between analog world of art and digital world of art so far.
Thank you. Juliana.
So, I'm Juliana Vrady, and I am digital artist and curator. So, as digital artist, I work with my husband, Andre Vrady, and we make projects that are related to artificial intelligence. And we just think how technology perceives human beings and how human beings perceive the technologies, and we try to find the dialogue between two parts and maybe also the empathy. And we met Dagmar last year, and it was very interesting to be a part of this project, because I think we could enrich project also with artificial intelligence and with the emotions of people, because the project is the art of resonance, so it works.
Thank you very much, Juliana. Maybe say, before people go downstairs to see the exhibit, which of these pieces is the one you were involved with downstairs?
Yeah, so it is Reflections of OUBEYs.
Okay, it's the one where you see images of OUBEY's art and then some AI reads your face or something? Can you explain?
Yes, so technically, you are in, so it's the dialogue between people and technology. What does it mean? So, and how can artificial intelligence receive us? What does it mean, actually? It can be done with help of sensors. So the person stay in front of the camera with facial expression recognition, and these sensors read the reactions with help of stimuli and after there, all the information, all the summary metrics go into the computational code, and as output we have the visualization of emotions of people, and it works simultaneously. And as the language for this emotion, for this visualization, we used analog artworks of OUBEYs. So.
Terrific, yeah. I tried it before, and it's very impressive. It's facial recognition that then turns your emotions into artwork. Very cool. But Christoph, let's get to you. Why are you here, and what is your relation to OUBEYs art?
So, my name is Christoph Brosius. Welcome. Oh, I see. That's the difference between you and my voice. I'm going to make you nuts now. I'm a playful game designer. See what I do here? And I'm looking at the world and thinking, most of everything I see all day long could be more fun, whilst it's still increasing in complexity as we move along. And whilst I think it's exactly the same thing about everything. This includes art. So I look at basically at works of art, and I'm like, I like what I see. I still can't decode it or think it doesn't speak to me in a playful and joyful way. And the stuff that I do, I entitle playful reduction of complexity. And along those lines, I have the great honor and privilege to work with Dagmar within the MINDKISS Project, and downstairs, to answer the other question you have, are two exhibits that I, again, had the great joy of working on with and helping with the ideation of them. It's the magic bowl. So if you go on there and you see a reasonably sized I meant to say magnetic, but it's not. It's a metal bowl. It's an exhibit where you get the chance to illuminate 5 of Ube's paintings as if you were waiting for them to be lit by the moon and the sun in the cycle of 24 hours. So literally, we, through technology, gave people the chance to experience how the appearance of his works changes over time through sunlight and moonlight, through natural light. So that's one. And the other one deals a lot with associations. It's the Ube Explorer. It's those 3 individual PCs that are set up downstairs. And I could elaborate all day long about those, because that's the stuff we're currently working on. But the idea there is that we want to untangle on an ongoing scale what people associate with this complex realm of his body of work. Like, what do you think you see in there, not only for yourself, but to get into conversation with people about those associations?
Cool, thank you very much. So we already heard emotions, we heard technology, we heard art, we heard interactivity. This is exactly what we want to talk about. And by the way, at 2 o'clock, there's another talk with Christoph and Dagmar where they will explain his artworks downstairs in more detail. But I want to get back to you, Dagmar. From what I understand, you're not a painter, you're not a sculptor, but you've spent the last couple of decades heavily involved with art. For you, what do you think, in your mind, is the relationship between technology and art? We heard a little bit from those two, but for you as a spectator, as a curator, what is the relationship between art and technology?
So thanks for this question. It's an excellent question, but not easy to answer. We could add something or add another question to that. What is the relationship between human beings and art, and what is the relationship between technology and human beings? So the human beings are building up a connectedness, and I think that the history of evolution of mankind has always been connected with technology. So it's an absolutely human thing to go further and further and further, and it has always been connected with art. Think of the cave drawings and cave paintings in Spain and in South Africa. So there has always been a connection. But now we are in the 21st century, and we have completely new possibilities. And what I find challenging and interesting is to use these new technologies like virtual reality or like artificial intelligence to get even more exploration, to get more experience with analog art. So that's my approach, building the bridge, what I said before, between analog art and digital possibilities. And so you can jump into a painting, you can be surrounded 30, 60 degrees, you can grab into the painting and you can be part of it. And that could never be possible with an analog piece of art, because you always have to keep a certain distance. And this is, I think, a completely new kind of, it can be a happy marriage. It can become a disaster, but it can be a happy marriage to bring both of these worlds together and open up completely new paths for the exploration and for the discovery of what is inside a painting. So that's my first try of an answer.
Let me dig a little deeper here. If somebody creates an analog piece of art, I mean, the Kunstkraftwerk is famous for its Van Gogh exhibits and so on, and obviously Van Gogh didn't have digital technology, but if you're saying, well, we have an analog piece of art and with virtual reality we can go into the piece of art and so on, I wonder why? Like, isn't that a technological gimmick, or is that something that is absolutely necessary that you get involved with a piece of art? If today somebody paints a painting, I would say they could have made digital art, but they chose to do a painting. Why should we go ahead and afterwards create this technological access?
I would try to keep it very short, because I think you're also a good person to answer that, Christoph. So I never would say it's a necessity. It's not necessary, but it's possible. And I love possibilities. So I'm curious and I look what's possible, what's going on there. And of course, there's always the value of an analog piece, but to discover things in this analog piece through the help or with the help of technology, that's interesting and it's playful. Christoph said it's fun. So this doesn't mean it's not serious, you know, and it's not on effects. So what I really disagree with is just to make digital projections or productions which are speculating on effects, because this is not for the long term. This is not sustainable. This is yes, now, wow, whee, and then it's gone, you know. You don't really take much of it. So that's the bad case. And the good case is, I hope you will see that when you are downstairs and you make your own experience with it. It goes deep. It goes deep into your heart, into your soul, into your mind, and you can work with it. And that's the invitation. Take it, be curious, play with it, use the possibilities.
Cool, yeah, I like that. Trying to make deeper connections. Christoph, I was told to ask you next, so I will do that. You said your work is trying to make art more fun, or to connect the fun of gaming with art. Again, why? Why does art have to be fun? What's your reason behind bringing your experience with game design to art?
So if I visit a regular museum and I browse through, as you gave the example, you know, classical paintings, the basic interaction that's feasible and that's wanted is mostly to watch. I mean, full stop. Usually it ends pretty much there. I don't know about you, I would love to touch. Most times you can't really do that. I would love to feel the pain, feel the sort of the structure and the material. I can't. And what's else to do? I can't hang it from the wall and run around with it. I would love to do that. So there are lots of things I would love to do with the painting, but I'm not allowed to, I can't. As a game designer, like, my main focus is to find interactions. So what's the thing to do? What's the thing that you can do with something, literally? And I think in that regard, it wouldn't only be me to speak on that topic, because exactly what you're doing, you know, just from a different angle. So if you ask, what's got a game designer to do with art? You know, what's that about? Well, it's about finding new types of interactions that, and I think that's at least my perspective, in a world where, from the smallest child to my father of almost 80 years old, people are so used to have a zoom, a touch, a swipe, a choose, a enlarge, an alter. Like, people are getting more and more used to it. You see those small children touching the newspaper and being disappointed that nothing happens. So the natural state that we're moving towards is to expect an interaction. Like, you don't expect screens to be sort of linear and non-touchable and non-responsive. And if that's the case, to answer your question from my perspective, why can't we use modern state, cutting-edge technology to open up bodies of work and regular, classical, beautiful art so that they may reach people that would otherwise have not enjoyed them to the fullest, to that extent, or not at all, because they found like the simple act of watching not along the lines of stuff that they enjoy to do. And that's, at least I think, things that MINDKISS explores more and more and more of the past 10 years, that you draw and attract people that may otherwise would have not been drawn to classical works of art in the first place. And that's why I love it.
What brought you and your partner in art to connect artificial intelligence and art? You explained your project, I understand what it does, but for you as well, like what brought you to explore that connection?
Yes, so now everywhere we hear the words digitalization, artificial intelligence, blockchains and everything. So I was just curious. It was just, yes, and you see in all the newspapers that, wow, artificial intelligence is so, yeah, bad, very bad, because tomorrow everything make the machines, and and now also with this digitalization. So what will be with the humans? What will be with the humanity? And we just thought maybe something could be useful for us, or how can we understand it more? And we made these experiments with artificial intelligence and with sensors, and we tested each other. And for example, funny thing was the first person who was tested by us was Andre. Okay. And I have shown him a very funny video, so like a little bit stupid golf video, and as I perceived it, he smiled all the time, so he was just happy, and I thought, okay, now will be joy 80%. But then we had these averages, these summary metrics, and okay, the joy was 0, 20% of disgust, and 50% of contempt. Okay, in this way I thought, yeah, maybe artificial intelligence can understand better than me.
Yes, I understand contempt for funny meme golf videos on the internet. Yes, Andre, I'm with you. But what I'm hearing from you is that your understanding of technology changed through art. So far we talked about how can we change our understanding of art through technology, and what you're saying is almost the other way around. Is this correct? Like, your understanding of AI and blockchain and so on changed by using it for art?
Yes, I think yes. So really, now I see more possibilities. At first I was a little bit skeptic.
Cool. Well, Dagmar, how about you? How has your understanding of technology changed through bringing OUBEYs art to technologists?
I'm not sure whether I'm the right person to answer that question. I think all the partners of the OUBEY MINDKISS Project, they can answer this question maybe even better than I. What they tell me, what some of them tell me, is that they have a new perspective. They want a new perspective on their profession, on their work with technology. For example, the two guys from Kubik Photo in Bremen, they cannot be here today, sadly. So they made the build for the virtual reality, which we cannot really show because of Corona. So this is a kind of bad circle. But anyway, they did it, and they did it wonderfully. And they say it's the first time that somebody asked us to do something like that for art. And they really had to go into that and to understand the paintings, the art, the OUBEY, who doesn't live anymore, and then to use their fantasy and their technology and their competence to develop something. And they said now they have a different look on all their other projects than they had before. So it's not a huge, gorgeous thing, but they have changed something. And maybe this is a very first step, because we are just in the beginning of all of that development. So, but I would be hopeful that at least a certain group of technologists and experts will really grab something from that and will really feel an enrichment by being close to art projects, and not just only to, I don't mean this disrespectfully, but not only for business projects and for advertising or things like that.
Well, Christoph, how is it for you? Do you feel your practice of game design and all your technology work has changed by interacting with primarily analog art?
Yeah. And
I'm glad you took your time to think about that. That's good.
And I think the reason why is because I'm a game, like as a game creator, it's easy to mesh up the, let's call them like the visual arts as just one of those trades. I need to produce a game. It's just one of those components. I need people of a certain skill set to produce the whole thing. Working with these artworks changed that. Like it's the source, it's the main thing to start the whole project from, and that usually isn't my perspective. And in this scenario, you look at the body of work, the artwork itself, and try to decipher from there and to find the thing to do, the interaction, and what technology to use that goes along with that, or the combination of what could this or this technology with this artwork recreate a certain emotion or experience that I have. And this pretty much sort of brought me to questions I didn't have before. Like, I never walked through a museum, looked at paintings and went like, what's the thing I would love to do with this? And I don't know who came up with the Van Gogh thing here, right? But like somebody must have had I don't know how this went along, but like somebody must have literally, I imagine.
We received an offer.
You received an offer, right? But the person
From Van Gogh.
but himself. But him, he must have had this one moment of realization at some point in time where he saw the body, the body of work or the artworks in the first-hand experience. And usually what happens is, and this is something I didn't, experience before, I'm feeling something now, there's an inner image I have, how can I recreate this and sort of extrapolate this through the use of technology? And this lens, this perspective of going through the world, looking for something that touches me, and then facilitating technology to recreate and to bring this thing to more people, to literally dive into the mind of a beautiful artist that everybody knows. How does this go about? How does this work? Didn't have that perspective before, and now I'm just to go full circle. This helps me to work on my regular day work differently, because this so very much reinforced the cautiousness with which you first try to find the right feeling and then make a choice of how to design it and what technology to use to go along with it.
Thank you very much. So I have one more question for the panel, and then the idea was that we bring in the audience. This might be, I didn't tell you about this before, so this might be sort of a speculative, from the gut kind of answer. Where do you think art is going over the next 10 or 20 years with regard to technology? Is this what we're seeing here, the future, or is there another step coming up? Will it be more AI and we don't need artists anymore? The AI does it all by itself? Or will people create their own art through gaming? Or where do you think this journey is going? Whoever wants to go first. There's no right or wrong answers here. We don't know.
Yeah, so actually I think the formats will be more interdisciplinary. So we will mix all the formats together, old formats, new formats, coming formats, discussions, everything together will create the dialogue. And I think in our society, the dialogue is very important. Just to discuss these things, and maybe after that to understand what is interesting or what is near to you. So that's my point.
Okay, well, that's great, interdisciplinarity. Yeah, Dagmar, please go right ahead.
So it's a wonderful keyword you just used. It's interdisciplinary, and there's another aspect which I hope, nobody knows what the future will bring, even not for art, but that we will see that we overcome the separation of the disciplines between science disciplines, but also between science and art, between science and culture, between philosophy. That's what I hope. That would be one of my wishes. And the second wish for the future would be that art actually comes or is born out of life. And I would love to see that art becomes much more a part of daily life for people than it is now. So not this exclusively thing for a museum or for something else. And maybe digitalization can be very helpful to get the daily world of people and the art world closer together.
Wow, those are two, I mean, I'm getting chills. These are two very great statements. Interdisciplinarity, I subscribe to that. Christoph, how about for you? Where do you see the future of art going with regard to tech and everything?
I have the great pleasure of helping an international group of students in a master's program at Filmschule Cologne, and the program is called Digital Narratives. And the main thing we're trying to get across there time and time again is we have no clue what the technology of the future is all about. So if there's one thing we can get across to you, digital narrators of the future, is you need to learn how to broaden your color palette of tools to use in the future. So it's much more about the way you look at things and the open mindset you have to acquire new technology that you find interesting, that you could potentially use for your bodies of work. So therefore, the way I see, if I look in the future, is a more tool-centered approach that completely, endlessly broadens the realm of possibility of what to use and when and how to what effect. And in my mind, that's going to change the role of the artist in a couple of decades down the line even more, because the main skill not only is going to be how do I sort of design or how do I sort of create in detail. It's about the wise decision-making process of what tool, analog or digital, already existent or to be designed in the future, one shall use to what effect. And in my mind, we're only at the brim of starting to learn what's good for what. And it's a moving target. It's moving all the way along. And therefore, that's the main thing that's going to change. That you had Leonardo, Picasso, somebody who learned one skill set and tuned it to the fullest for a full career, and then went to the grave at the height of their skill set. That's, I think, more going away. And the thing that's going to be more and more the case is that by the time you retire, you have gotten to the fullest extent of throw any new tech, any new development at me, and I will pretty much be totally capable of telling you what I can use this for and why exactly this makes sense in my work.
Do you think of yourself as an artist with the work that you're doing here?
No.
Interesting. How about you, Dagmar? Do you think, I mean, you're a curator, you put all of this together, you brought all these people together. Do you think of yourself as an artist?
No.
That's so, okay. From my point of view, you're both also artists, but that's, you know, a little...
Yeah, you can say
we can talk about this over beer later.
You can say
topic.
No, I just, you know, if you're talking about interdisciplinarity and collaboration and multimedia and so on, and then, no, I'm a technologist, I use art, or I'm a curator, I use art, but actually you're producing something creative, but that's just my point. But we have a question here in the audience, actually.
Yep, maybe not a question, but a remark, perhaps. First of all, I'd really like to thank you for that discussion. It is exactly what I and we hope to have here. to see where we, as a small contributor, the Kunstkraftwerk, can go forward. And it is, of course, a question that you raised, where is the development going to? This is from two perspectives that we have. We are trying to be producers. And the question is, well, I think there is a big sense of having the Van Gogh or painting being presented to an audience, and they love it. And the reason they love it, I think, is a pretty simple one. This is a low-level approach to art which is there, and it is an emotional approach. So I had a very prominent director of the Leipzig museums here a year ago, and I showed him the show of Giants of the Renaissance, and he looked at me afterwards and he said, you know, I'm a classical museum guy. I only want to have something there and people should stand there, and it's the didactic approach. I don't want to tell anything more.
Boring, boring.
Yes, and you are doing exactly the opposite, and you are getting people involved. You are creating emotions. And I was, up to today, totally refusing this way of thinking, and he said, but I have to admit, I need to reconsider. And I think this is something we need to put in. It's not a black and white, it's not either or. You need that reflection, this is clear. I'm going to the museum, but I also want to have something that catches me. And in this regard, I think there is, which one you mentioned, this is the, maybe, I think our society with the social media is fragmenting into groups of segregating of people who don't meet anymore. And this technology may permit to give them new opportunities. So there is a chance also to get them in. But my view, and I think you supported this, the technology shouldn't be the driver for the art, but the other way around. Whatever is possible. And now, a concluding remark. When I look at these halls and all the things that we see, I always think I'm somewhere in the caves of Périgord.
Yes.
And our mankind, 30,000 years ago, they created an immersive painting.
Sure they did.
And that is where our imagination started. And we are doing exactly the same thing all the time. And it's not about technology. The caves are fine, the houses are fine. It's about what we want to tell. It's about the myths. It's about the stories. It's about the enigmas. This is the art part. And the technology is secondary.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I mean, there's a reason Werner Herzog used 3D filming technology to make a film about these caves so that it become immersive. But Dagmar, you wanted to comment.
Yeah, so I'm very thankful for you commenting. You too?
Yeah, me too. Yeah, of course.
I think it's really a very, very special impact and a very special role that art can have as a transporter, but also transformer, maybe MINDKISS. It has to do with that, exactly what you just said. It's not about technology, it's about art, it's about thinking, it's about consciousness, and it's about enabling to create, so it sounds maybe pathetic, but to create a better world, just practically.
I just really briefly want to build upon one aspect you just mentioned. If a classical director or a director of a classical museum that's used to work with, for a couple of decades, I guess, work with classical paintings and then comes to a moment of realization such as this, from a gamer's perspective, from a game developer perspective, there is no way to intellectually describe and explain a game. A game may only be explained through through first-hand experience, through playing. And that's true for so many pieces of art just as well, and especially for those technological ones that we're discussing right here. So I love that you sort of have more and more of these moments where people get so immersed that they for the first time get what they didn't get from seeing a video, from seeing a picture. They need to experience it themselves. And therefore, thank you for this festival, because this is awesome. More people need to come and experience it.